truck, $15,000 truck from Ford. What's going on? Is the Ford Maverick going to have a competitor from Ford themselves?
And it's too good to be true for that price, I guess.
Would you get a 15,000 US truck?
It depends on what it looks like, because at that price, I'm not sure I will love it, but we can be surprised.
Well, we can be surprised or we can be BS'd. And tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of BS busting because I want you all to have the real deal. We're not just here to say ridiculous things, give you a real sugar rush of information, but then you end up with diabetes because that's not what this show's about. It's about actually giving you real information. So let's talk about the small trucks that are actually coming to the market, because we'll talk about this rumor, but it's a little wild. We're also going to be talking not just about rumors and debunking them. We're going to be talking also about, of course, recalls. So we've got some recall news coming up. I think that's going to be pretty darn important. We're also going to be talking about not overpaying for a Toyota. Now, this isn't a joke. This is an actual 1995 Tacoma for sale for $26,995. And back in the 90s, all the trucks were smaller. So maybe this is actually a Tundra, but I do believe it's a Tacoma from recollection. But we're going to be talking about those Tacomas, of course. We're going to be talking about Toyota and the importance of not overpaying. And that's not just at Toyota, because Toyota's having a bit of problems with their dealerships and people overpaying. And we'll be talking about tricks to not overpay, because of course we want to save you thousands. We'll be talking about we won't be talking about what's scheduling at Ford this week. We'll leave that to Tim Bart's tomorrow at Long MacArthur. Awesome show. Love the guy. Love the show. And beyond recalls and fires, we're going to be talking about how to save thousands at Ford, even with this whole new pretty big possibility of non-negotiation, no haggle pricing. So we'll have a little discussion about that, and more importantly, how to save thousands even when you can't negotiate your price. And really important, let's talk about how to not overpay, tricks, things you need to know so you don't get talked into buying these, buying into this whole dealer fees, markups, forced anti-thefts, forced insurances. We'll be talking about, what you can do really to protect yourself, what you can say, and what you can do to make sure that you don't get swindled, robbed, stolen from. So that's what's going on this week. And of course, at our dealership, we currently got a Ford Bronco Raptor, which is pretty exciting, because in person it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, we had some technical problems getting the show running, so I don't actually have some live footage of that, but we'll bring that next week. But I know I've said bad things about those fender flares on the Ford Bronco Raptor, and I've seen them in person. They actually have like metallic in them, and even the fender flares look great, which was the one piece I really didn't like on the Bronco Raptor, the Braptor. And in reality, the fender flares are actually pretty fantastic when you see them live up close and personal. 117,000 Canadian, and you don't have to worry because it's not available. It was ordered officially, order accepted September 2022, and it just got in. And that can make you think that, hey, I can get a Raptor. I'll go order one. Well, a lot of dealerships are going to get anywhere from 0 to maybe 4 Bronco Raptors. And this dealership is going to get 1 Bronco Raptor for the year, and it's spoken for. So if someone were to get in line now, they might wait, 4 years to get 3 or 4 years to get their Bronco Raptor. So I'm not going to put myself...
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I'm not going to put myself on that list quite yet. So let's do this show in order. Yeah, you don't have to listen to me talk about it for the next 4 years. Also, really important, we're going to be talking about dates, important dates to know so that you order your Ford at the right time. So we'll go through that list of dates for the most important models like the Ford Maverick, the Ford Bronco, the Ford 2024 Ford Ranger, and the 2024 Ford Mustangs. If we have time, we'll talk about some things to avoid on your list. So we're going to be talking about when you put in your order, what should you be avoiding to actually get your vehicle in a reasonable amount of time. This is going to tie into next week's show that you won't want to miss, because then I'll have all the photos loaded into the computer and I'll be able to show you various Mavericks that have shown up, what's their equipment, how long they took, and I'm still waiting for official confirmation because in the information system, it only shows me when the order was reconfirmed. So of course, everything is saying, you know, back to when the order banks opened. So back to September 2022 on the Maverick. And those Mavericks were actually ordered earlier. So we're now mostly handling the months of November and December 2021, even when we're talking about hybrids. But I'll get actual photos in confirmed details because being precise and accurate is so important to me. I don't want to just be a sugar rush in the industry, giving everyone diabetes with, pardon my French, but kind of dumbass commentary that you'll get on YouTube quite often. So let's check this out. Where do you feel like starting tonight, Marie?
I'll let you lead.
Prost to everyone. By the way, this is no alcohol beer and it's delicious. Now you say you'll let me lead. Do you want to do you want to hear about the Maverick first?
Yeah, we can go with that. I guess people really love the news about Maverick. So
Okay.
let's start with that.
That's smart. You've got the brains here. I've got the information, so you lead the show here. We're going to talk about Ford Maverick. Now, this was a Ford Maverick picture provided by someone who had a transmission replaced. And, you know, they kind of took it as, oh, well, I have a brand new transmission and already it's broken. Just to let you know, when something new gets installed on a vehicle, it's not always installed properly. That's red. Red liquid is transmission fluid. So this vehicle never left its parking spot. That would be probably maybe a gasket that wasn't reinstalled, bolts that weren't torqued to the right specs. These things happen. Now, I know with the internet, the typical reaction is to sort of have that sugar high. Our brains, in regards to dopamine, our brains are geared for that quick satisfaction, that feel good. What makes people feel good? Well, I can tell you there's a whole lot more people not shopping a Ford than people who are shopping a Ford. So a lot of people gear their videos. Even if you're just on forums and you come across these pictures, your brain's geared to get worked up for that sugar high, for that dopamine. And what happens is some people prey on this. Some people are making their YouTube videos and figuring, hey, how many people are looking to buy a Ford, a Dodge, a Ram, Jeep, GMC? A whole lot more people are not in the market to buy a vehicle. So what do they gear all their information at? Not buying a vehicle. And I kind of feel like this is economic terrorism. So, yeah, you're laughing.
That's hard. Yeah, that's
No.
big.
That's fine. No, laugh. Tell me about it. Tell me more about it.
No, it describes a lot, but it's it's a big word.
It is a
Terrorism.
big. It is a big word. Okay.
But it describes what people said. They said just all Maverick are broken. It's they put it in general when they see only one picture. So
Yes, and we'll talk about some specific videos in a moment, so stick with us because I'll actually back my claim. I won't just make a random claim. I'm going to back my claim with some examples. And we'll get to that 15,000K new Ford truck that's being promoted. So Ridgeview, thank you for bringing that story to me. Very appreciated. We've got a community here that helps each other out, and I'm here to help you out because I can make blasphemous, wild, outrageous, and unbelievably incorrect videos and make a lot of money. But making a lot of money on YouTube, it's like, oh, okay, so if I lie a lot, I'll make maybe $150,000 a year spreading fake, wrong news. I already have I have a good business. My life's good enough, and no matter how bad life gets, I don't want to be doing that to people. So let's get down to the real deal here. You know, you don't want to miss out on great opportunities because there's something posted on the internet that says like, hey, look at this vehicle, it's broken. Your brain is naturally, it's a logical fallacy, but it's how our brains are geared. Our emotional response is if you see one, it feels close to you. And because it feels close to you, your brain, in order to protect itself, it's sort of like a fear protection mechanism, is going to sort of extrapolate that to a kind of convince you, make you think that, oh, this is what's going on, I need to avoid and I need to stay clear. Well, if you look at, a few engine failures from the Z06 Corvette, you'd stay away from this vehicle. And you shouldn't stay away from this vehicle. It's a fantastic vehicle. And the Z06 Corvette has the flat plane crank, so the flat plane crankshaft engine configuration. That's very much a race engine. It's, on the top supercars. So it's not just a readily available normal engine. It's also what the Voodoo engine from Ford uses, the 5.2 liter in the GT350. When it comes to engines, top of the engine game. That's engine heaven or engine nirvana, if I may say without being blasphemous. And you wouldn't want to miss out on that engine. You wouldn't want to miss out on the Corvette just because the internet will show you, a few blown Corvettes. Mind you, there's another lesson that we can learn from this in regards to maintenance before we get on to some more concrete stuff in the show. Break-in periods. So this Corvette, the owner claims they did a great job breaking in the engine up to 500 miles. Now, I can actually say that you're probably better off playing it safe and going to 1,500 miles. And a break-in period doesn't just mean you go on the auto route, the highway, put your cruise control to 65 miles per hour and roll at the same speed. That's actually quite bad for a break-in period. What you actually want to do is not rev the engine over 4,000 RPM, and you want to, kind of drive around, deaccelerate, accelerate. When you deaccelerate, don't downshift so it's above 4,000 RPM. Now, your particular model, whether it's a Ford or a GM or a Dodge, you need to look into what the instruction manual says. And if the owner's manual says there's no break-in period, don't believe them. Take a drive around in different speed zones with stop signs, take off from the light without going over 4,000 RPM.
I'm proud of you. You said read the instruction. It never happens normally with you.
Honey, you're wearing off on me. You're wearing off on me. I know I've broken a lot of things from not reading the instruction manual, and I'm learning. I'm going to be 40 and not that long.
Yeah, you're learning. Now that you need to read the instruction, you just give me the thing and said, read it, please, and help me. So you don't have to read it.
So.
That's a secret.
$15,000 Ford truck, a competitor to the Maverick. So what's going on here? So we've got this story from Clean Tech saying it happened. And this really bugs me. It's saying it happened. And they've cut and paste Jim Farley here, Ford's CEO. So it really looks convincing. Ford reveals all new $15,000 pickup truck and shocks the entire industry. I wasted 9 minutes, just above 8 minutes of my life that I'd like to get a refund. I'd like to full Karen, ask to speak to the manager, and yell and scream until I get my 8-minute refund. But that was 8 minutes of my life wasted because this is complete BS and I'm going to bust it. There are no rumors at Ford right now that the Ford Maverick is going to have a competitor. If anything were to happen, I'd say it'd be more likely that we'd see, the Bronco Sport or the Escape get cut so that there can be more high-end models. And I'm not saying that that's anything that is going to happen, but, Mitchell Watts, Town and Country, mentioned that, that was maybe in the rumor mill from what I could understand from his video, but that rumor mill hasn't hit me yet, so I can't even say that this is internal rumors going on at Ford because I haven't heard it at all. Rev Nation, I'll take the hat off just for you, but this is the pool here. It's pretty hot here, so I had to jump in the pool before this video. But a 15K Maverick competitor, there is absolutely zero internal rumors of this at Ford. And I highly doubt at this point that Ford would be, using up a factory to build a Maverick competitor. Opening up a second factory or dedicating one entire factory to the Ford Maverick, now that could happen. And I don't think it'd be that bad of an idea because so many of us want our Ford Mavericks. Now, we'll be talking more about Maverick production numbers. We're going to be talking more about Maverick percentages, what to have on your build, what not to have on your build in a little bit. Just got to get through what has been really bothering me, and it really makes me say that some channels are, it's almost like economic terrorism, and I think those two terms go well together. I know it makes you laugh and you think I'm a little wild in my thought process here.
No, that's fine.
But I'm going to explain myself. So if let's say someone causes harm to 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, creates a lot of fear, they're a terrorist. Someone that creates fear for, is a terrorist. Now, what about when you create fear for profit for yourself while potentially destroying the economy? I think that makes you an economic terrorist. So I'll give you some examples of this. You talk about a 15K truck coming to market. What does this do? It has people not order up a Ford Maverick or a Honda Ridgeline or a Toyota Tacoma or a Ford Ranger. I'm gonna wait. And it's okay to wait on buying an actual vehicle that will exist under factual pretenses. That's fine. Save your money for later. I'm totally okay with that. I'm not saying that telling people to save their money for later is economic terrorism. What I'm saying is sort of economic terrorism is when you BS to get money for yourself and there's no basis of truth in it. Now, this video, I watched through it. They're just constantly showing pictures of a Ford Maverick, a Ford Ranger, and they're constantly saying Ford Maverick over and over to try to really get those tags and get views, because if you say Ford Maverick, when Ford Maverick is really popular, well, you're going to get more Ford Maverick views and Ford Maverick dollars. So there's an example. That's sort of what the video sounded like, but for 8 minutes. I did it for 15 seconds. I hope you're slightly annoyed with how many times I said Ford Maverick. So all new $15,000 small truck. So these are keywords that kind of make the YouTube overlords, the whole computing system, the algorithm to sort of push out your stuff. And of course, even if you really tick people off by BSing, people disliking and hitting the thumbs down and leaving comments like, you're a dumbass. Well, you know what? YouTube still likes that because it's creating conversation and the video gets out. It makes
didn't
money.
read the comment that much. It just said, okay, we have a lot of comments, so that's a good video. But you know what? At the same time, when we look at the picture, it's impossible that car could be $15,000 because just the tires on it
and mags.
2,000 and more, and it looks bigger than the Maverick, and the grill is almost the Raptor grill. So it's not that car. It's impossible.
I love it that you're talking cars tonight. You're not just. I appreciate it. Marie's usually here. She's like she tells me she doesn't like her accent, so she's just here to take notes and, write down people's questions and bring them back to me, and she's shy. So I'm really happy that you're coming out of your bubble and you're saying it as it is. Those tires and mags
when I know
are
the
almost
word,
$15,000. I'm loving it. I'm loving it, and I hope you all out here are loving it too. Okay, so let's continue. Now, there's deliberate BS for dollars, and I'm just going to continue on the idea of how bad this can be for the economy, because sometimes there's non-deliberate occurrences of this. So, Toyota, actually, there is a small chance Toyota comes out with a Maverick competitor. It's not going to be anywhere near $15,000. I know we're all, money isn't easy to make. And there's not a whole lot of it going around when, you're working the 9 to 5. Vehicles are getting priced out, slowly getting priced out. Less and less of the population can afford a new vehicle. The lower, if we were to divide society into 3 classes, lower, middle, upper, and then let's just not put the less than 1% of our North American population into this, the billionaires. Let's just pretend like we'll call them the ultra rich. So they're not in the upper class, but if you're to divide the economy into 3 classes, forgetting the super rich, really what's troublesome is that there's no new vehicles for the lower class anymore. And whether this is planned or not, we might be moving into, you look at vehicles just recording all sorts of data so that they can become autonomous. Well, my worry is, and this is only 30 seconds, I'll say this, my worry is that we are moving towards a planned future where car ownership is almost non-existent, that it's all about ride sharing. You pay your monthly subscription fee to get driven around, the vehicles drive themselves, and that car ownership is going to be reserved for the ultra rich, not even the upper class. And I worry that, that is only 20 years away. And because right now, in a short 2 to 3 year period, and most of this was only done within the last year and a half, there aren't new vehicles for the lower class. You can't have a minimum wage job and have a new vehicle. Those two things don't exist anymore. You can't have even jobs that are in the lower 10% percentile. If you're in the lower 10 percentile and have one job and work 40 hours a week, you cannot afford a new vehicle. That really bothers me. So I am worried that we're moving towards a future where everything's unaffordable and we rent everything. And I think part of that, there's some people that'd be very happy if that is the plan. But I went over my 30 seconds, so we'll get back to the show. Toyota, now there's a high up at Toyota said that they are looking and they are considering a small truck, something smaller than a Tacoma, which is a mid-sized truck. So once a high up, a CEO, a vice president of a company, whether it's automobile or not, once they confirm the possibility of something, well, then you definitely know that you've got a chance. So let's talk about what that chance would be. The chance would be, if it does happen, he even said it wouldn't be anything in the short term. So this would mean probably 2025, 2026. And under some people will say, you know what? I'll wait on buying a Maverick or a Honda Ridgeline. I'll wait on stimulating the economy because there's this video here that has me believing that I'll have a $22,000 Toyota small truck or a $15,000 Ford truck real soon. Well, the economy kind of freezes. If enough people buy into this and believe it, money doesn't move. And what's wild is if you think about it, just at Ford, how many hundreds of thousands of jobs are provided just by Ford and the factories? Just look at U.S. dealerships, 3,000 U.S. dealerships. If you're to put an average of 100 employees at those dealerships per dealership, you'd be at 300,000. Now it's a little less than 300,000 dealership employees, but that's just dealerships. That's not Ford factories. And that's not all the, because Ford assembles vehicles, all the parts, they're coming from factories that create jobs as well. So Ford must be, if you're looking at dealerships, Canada and the US, just in dealerships being at roughly 300,000 jobs, and you add in all the factories for that where Ford assembles vehicles and all the factories that are creating parts for Ford, Ford's providing what, a million jobs? That's why I call it economic terrorism. Because when you have, and sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's not, this is deliberate. This is just someone knowing that they're definitely putting out information saying the newest $22,000 Toyota small truck will make Ford Maverick obsolete. That's just selling your soul for a few dollars because that's completely unbelievably wrong. You can't say that Toyota has, the newest 22K Toyota small truck when it hasn't been announced. Toyota officially said we're thinking about it, maybe, and not in the short, it won't happen in the short term if it happens. So let's check out some other instances. Something that might actually happen. Kia did confirm 2 trucks, so there might be a small and a medium-sized Kia truck. We talked about that in the was that last week's live? Remind me. Was that last week's live that we talked about the Kia small truck?
Yes, last week, I guess, if I remember well.
So right there, if you're, just to back up what I'm saying, right here, quote directly from Toyota, one of the spaces we're looking at that won't be short term is where the compact truck is going. You have Santa Cruz and Maverick on the market, and it will be interesting to see Scout. So Toyota Scout could be the name of this small truck if it happens. So back to the quote, today we have the market really well covered with Tacoma, but that could be a possibility and something we continue to look at. So confirmed by Toyota that they're considering it. So not actually happening, folks. So if you sit around waiting for a Toyota because of these videos, well, your dollars just aren't stimulating people who currently are putting a lot of work into bringing us Tacomas, Ford Rangers, Ford Mavericks, Ford Broncos. Hundreds, the automobile industry in Canada and the US are producing hundreds of thousands of jobs, if not, low 1 point something million. So I don't have the exact number of jobs because it's hard because of all the side jobs. You'll have some companies that will build parts for Ford or build parts for Toyota and, 1 or 2 non-automobile related companies. So how do you count those jobs into the job creation? But we can easily say we're either very near 1 million or a little over 1 million jobs that, work in and around the automobile industry. So where can these things sometimes, accidentally be, how can you be an accidental economic terrorist? Well, when you really want views and you want dollars. So I'll give you a small example here. Small example here, Ford can't sell trucks. They're in big trouble, not making any Mavericks. So just zoom in on the title here. That's incorrect. Ford can sell trucks and Ford is making Mavericks. And this actually segues really well into talking about our whole fire and recalls and whatnot, because we'll get to that. But Ford is absolutely making trucks. We talked about it in the last few lives. So Ford, I'll just take the notes out here because I was going to talk recalls first, but things happen. So in the month of May, Ford new vehicle sales rose 23% from a year before. Mind you, the year before, production was way down. Why does Ford have so many Ford trucks, F-150s in the yard? Well, I can answer that with data, facts, and hands-on experience. A year ago, Ford had trouble making F-150s. Production was down. Now, that's not the case. Production is going very well with F-150, and they have 2 factories, and they're huge factories, and they've been making F-150s for many decades. So when they get the parts to assemble these vehicles, what happens? Things move pretty darn quickly. Now for the notes, when we split these shows up, in case you're not watching live, you'll want to mark it. This is sort of episode 2, we can say. So what's going on? Can Ford sell trucks? Well, the whole idea that Ford can't sell trucks, they're in big trouble, and they're not making Mavericks just isn't true. It can appear that way, but it's not true. Why does it appear that way? Well, people are, one person, this is the whole sugar diabetes things, the dopamine, the quick hit. One person made a video walking on a Ford lot, and then a Jeep lot, and then a Ram lot, and it really sold. It made a lot of views to say that, Jeep, Ford, GM can't sell any trucks. Why? Because we're all frustrated that the prices have increased. They're hitting a nerve that exists in pretty much all of us. We're all bothered by the fact that everything has increased. Food's increased. Chlorine for my pool is increased. Fuel prices have increased. Everything is more expensive. So of course, if you hit that current common nerve running through all of society, you can make an emotional argument with zero data, and everyone's brain is telling them, boy, do I ever agree with this person? Boy, I'm going to watch this video 2 times and share it with everyone. But the problem is that the frustration is misplaced. It's misplaced. We're all pissed off, and it's because we're all having to pay. Inflation is a form of taxation for normal working people because money was printed off. So anytime that governments print off all sorts of money, free money doesn't exist. When governments print off money or give out free money, we have to pay for it. We're going to pay through it through different forms of taxation. And one form of taxation is inflation. Now, it's not just governments. Banks have very irresponsibly handed out money that's non-existent. It's not money that they actually hold in their banks. They lend out, well, about 10 times more money than they actually have, meaning they've made up fake money. So the prices of houses go way up. The price of everything goes way up. And when you couple that with unbelievably low interest and a steaming hot stock market that a lot of people are making money on, well, it can seem like a really good idea to, take out extra money from the equity of your home and buy all sorts of toys because, hey, interest rates are so low. And when everyone's sort of fighting for a limited amount of available product, that also blows up the price. And that's where markups occurred. Markups occurred because a lot of people were fighting over the same products. So F-150s, everyone wanted to go camping all of a sudden. So what happened? F-150s was popular. F-150s had huge markups, and there were waiting lines. People were waiting. There was waiting lists to get an F-150. So I understand, car questions answered. It makes sense. Their conclusion is, I like this guy, and I think he 99% of the time makes a lot of sense, has incredibly good advice, great shopping advice. But the 1% of the time, the eyes and the ears don't always have your brain go to the right conclusion because your heart, the emotional part, often gets in the way. And in this instance, the fact that we're all super peed off that prices have gone up so much makes it very easy to go to Ford lots and see a whole bunch of F-150s and say, whoa, Ford wants to make F-150s, because this was one of his conclusions. He said Ford wants to make F-150s because it makes them money, and they're not making Mavericks because it just doesn't make them money. As if, as if they're kind of forcing you to take this F-150 or, shove off. So what happens? A lot of people go, well, you know what? I'm going to shove off. I'm never going to buy a Ford again.
They didn't have 2 big factories for the Maverick, so and they want to get prepared for maybe the most Ford vehicle that is selling the most.
Well, yes and yes, but I'll summarize this into 3 very valid points and data driven and just factual, historically correct. You're right. Ford has 2 major factories for the F-150, and they've been making them for decades. If the parts come in, they can produce an F-150 faster than most underwear companies can make socks and underwear. Even though the F-150 is complex, it doesn't take a month from the beginning of the production line to the end of the production line. This thing goes through the production line probably faster than you can walk. You'd probably get tired part of the way through and take a nap, and the F-150 would be, there'd just be F-150s rolling right by you while you sleep. They produce these unbelievably well and quickly. 2 major factories making them. Now here's the other thing. Historically, data right here, 2018, 2019, medium, mid-sized truck market. Ford themselves, Rangers, they're selling what? 50, 60,000 Rangers? a year. Year one, from the return of the Ranger, with all the excitement for people for a decade screaming, saying, oh, I'm never going to buy a Ford again if they don't make another Ranger. I had heard this for many years, folks. And guess what? Ford brings back the Ranger under huge apparent anticipation. In year one, they sell 90,000 Ford Rangers.
Yeah, wasn't that popular?
It wasn't, well, it was 3 times more popular than the Honda Ridgeline, which generally sold 25 to 30,000 Honda Ridgelines each year. From, all through the 2000s. Those were Ridgeline, Honda Ridgeline numbers. The Toyota Tacoma, unbelievably popular, wildly popular vehicle. Selling what, 200,000? I think they were selling 100,000 in the US some
Maybe
years.
it's the category.
So, well, that's the conclusion Ford kind of had when they made the Maverick. They made this Maverick and they made the choice, because it shares the platform with both the Escape, the Lincoln Corsair, and the Bronco Sport. You can't expect a company to take a huge risk, like a monumental risk, saying we're going all in, and if this doesn't work out, the company goes bankrupt. We're putting all our eggs into the same Ford Maverick basket. No, they had data saying year one, Ranger sells 90,000, and after that, less every year. Honda Ridgeline, heck, they have trouble selling more than 32,000 in a year. So what happens? They used one factory for the Ford Maverick, and that factory is shared with the Bronco Sport. So really, what happens? You have half a factory making the Ford Maverick. Now, the Ford Maverick, small trucks, especially, rear wheel drive only, or heck, front wheel drive, which could have been a big concern because throughout the 2000s, 80s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, typically you had a certain negative connotation that you put on. You basically make fun of someone that had a two-wheel drive truck, especially if it was a small truck. These weren't seen as excessively masculine and manly. So, what's going on with the Ford Maverick? Well, they have increased production, and 41% of the production at that one factory is for the Ford Maverick. The other 59% is for the Bronco Sport. And the percentage originally was higher on the Bronco Sport. Why? Because, well, just Ford, it means Ford assumed that they'd sell more Bronco Sports than Mavericks. They thought there'd be more demand for it, and they have absolutely corrected that, that they're slowly bringing up Maverick production and cooling down Bronco Sport production, but it's still not 50-50. I would think they're working towards it. And I know even back in early 2022, Ford, this is, insider stuff, Ford told dealers, hey, we know how badly the customer base wants Mavericks. We know they're almost, breaking down your castle walls with pitchforks and torches, calling you monsters for not providing Ford Mavericks. So we are going to do our absolute best to increase production. So this whole idea that Ford's not making Mavericks isn't true. In May, they had the best production month ever for the Hermosillo plant. Doing my best to pronounce things correctly. I always want to respect people and their cultures. Respect people as long as they're nice and respect me. If someone's not nice and doesn't respect me, well, they're going to find out that I know a thing or two. So, production numbers. I'm searching. Honey, could you look through this pile right there? I've got 3 different piles for 5 different parts of this show. So production numbers, roughly the Hermosillo plant made 26,000 and a few hundred vehicles total. 15,000 and several hundred were for the Bronco Sport, and they had the best Maverick production year at about right around 12,000 Mavericks. So that's what's going on. Note that's going to be for how to save thousands at Ford. So sorry I don't have the exact down to the number data. I usually like to have that, but tonight I just have too many notes to share, too much good, awesome information that you definitely want to share these videos with people. Give the thumbs up and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out any information, because we do cut through the crap. And we try to say it really as it is. So the Ford F-150, really simply put, they've got two huge factories making them. They're pumping them out. Ford production is up. Ford sales are also up from a year ago. But here's the truth. Well, F-150 sales are up about 20%, roughly. 20% more is going to fleet sales. So really, you could actually make the conclusion that on the retail side of things, selling to people like us, normal people, things are stagnating. And that's actually really good because production, remember, is way up from a year ago. So if retail sales are stagnating, what does this mean? It means that the F-150 eventually, all those missing sales to fleet, because Ford did a nice choice. Before all these price increases, they're pretty much sending all their available F-150s to people, not to the huge fleet orders. And they got behind on those fleet orders, obviously, because they're doing their best to provide loyal, long-term people customers their vehicles. And to big companies, they're kind of saying, hold on to your Ford a little longer. We'll get back to you. We'll be right back in a minute, is basically what they're saying. Well, now they're getting back to them. But once fleet has sort of been saturated and filled up, well, there's going to be no choice. It's either cut down production and make less money because you're selling less volume, or come out with better prices. Already we've seen it. I had talked about going back to January 2023, and I think a few months before, but I really started talking more about it this January, saying, prices weren't bad because trade values were good. Well, that's still the case. Prices aren't bad if you have a trade that's worth a lot. But if you don't have a newish trade, anything that's, 7-8 years or newer, if you don't have a 5-6 year old truck that's worth a ton of money right now, it is hard to swallow that huge new truck payment. So if you've got a 20-year-old truck or just no truck and it's not worth very much, here's the trick. Wait a couple months. Fleet's going to get eventually saturated. They're going to have all this production still pumping out, and yards can only take so much, because here's another truth of the automobile industry. Some channels like to try to say that dealers are hiding vehicles. Dealers aren't hiding vehicles. Some dealers have always had extra lots where we store our new vehicles when our small, front line lots are full. We've always had backup spaces. And right now, I think we've got like 4 trucks at our backup space. When I've had some years, 2018, I think there was about 75 F-150s on this backup lot. So we're still not at full capacity in any way whatsoever. We're at, maybe a little over half capacity. And yes, days on the lot, vehicles, how long they take to sell at Ford did just cross 100 days. But that's actually starting to look more like 2018, 2019 data. However, in 2018, 2019, dealers weren't paying this insane interest rate. So yes, dealers do not want to go back to the type of inventories they used to have under the interest rates.
The game has changed.
So the game has changed. Dealers are going to start telling Ford, well, no. Actually, we don't want an extra whole bunch of trucks this month. Instead of taking 100 new trucks, how about we only take 30? And the negotiation is going to be more around, Ford being like, well, we want you to take 100. And the dealer's going to be like, well, I'll take 30 extra. And then they'll be like, well, you know what, you make us happy, take 50. And be like, oh, okay, we'll take 50. And then Ford kind of knows, it's like ringing bells at Ford. Hey, maybe we should come out with a promotion where the interest rate drops. Oh wait, they already did that on the F-150. Or maybe a promotion where they take almost $5,000 off the F-150. Oh no, wait, they already did that. Oh wait, but YouTube made me think that huge corporations are really, really dumb. They're not. They're run by a lot of smart people, hundreds of thousands of really smart people. Ford, GM, Jeep, these are our companies, folks. So can we not be like the 1970s and 1980s dumbasses over in Britain that destroyed their own car market because before YouTube, there were, newspapers and politicians, they had a lot of say. And they were just, bashing their own product. It was just common in the 1980s. It was just
That's the
common
economy.
if you're a British person and you'd make fun of your own British cars. And yes, they weren't great, but cars these days, no matter what manufacturer you buy them from, they're all at least good. They're, there's maybe a few particular models that are troublesome and a little bad, but there's no car maker that's just overall bad. I know you're
And no one
surprised.
that is fully perfect too. Everybody will have a recall.
Corvette Z06 is an incredible machine. It's an incredible motor, but yes, one blew. Heck, my ex-sister-in-law had a Toyota Corolla and her transmission blew.
It's not all the Corolla who does that.
It's not all the Corolla. Actually, the Corollas are fantastic
Yeah.
vehicles. But that one had an engine blew, and she didn't drive around and beat it or anything. So let's just try not to be economic terrorists and destroy our own economies and destroy millions, well, not millions, but probably million point something jobs in Canada and the US because, it's easy, it's quick dopamine, it's sugar, but people, we're going to end up with economic diabetes. Meaning we're going to be large and not in charge. We're going to be large and hard to get around. Why is it going to be hard to get around? Because we won't be able to buy any more Ford, Jeep, GMs because we'll have trashed them for a few dollars and these jobs won't exist and they're good paying jobs and people put a lot of work and effort to bring us awesome trucks. GM makes awesome trucks. Dodge makes awesome trucks. Ford makes the most awesome trucks. Toyota in the US makes some awesome trucks. So let's just keep that in mind and not partake in this economic terrorism, whether it's deliberate or not deliberate. In this case, very much not deliberate, 99% true. It's just, I had to explain. Also, there's the fact that the Ford Maverick, please do recall, folks, that the Ford Maverick is currently in half a factory and demand is unbelievably high. So we just need to keep that in mind. Ford, it's not that they don't want to make Mavericks. They made like 12,000 of them last month. 12,000 vehicles. That's
after
that's
the
not the
range,
GMC EV Hummer where, they might only make 5,000 ever since they've been making them.
yeah, and after the Ranger that wasn't that popular at the the first time, maybe they didn't expect that popularity for the Maverick.
So far, they've made 56,000 this year. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact unit in front of me because for whatever reason, I can't find my sheet. Yes, we can find that new sale vehicles have risen by 23% from a year ago, but that's not some sort of sign that says prices will never go down. Prices have to go down if production stays high and yards are full. But I'm not expecting MSRPs will stay the same. It's just we're going to start getting fed a few rebates and we're going to start getting fed some promotional interest rates where the manufacturer is essentially kind of financing a better interest rate. They're paying for a better interest rate so that we can get a better deal and these monthly payments can go down. But if you're in the market to switch right now, it's not bad. Especially, it's actually pretty good if you have a vehicle. Because, for example, I see vehicles right now like a 2019 Escape. Traditionally, a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old Escape on a very long period of finance probably would have been about $6,000 upside down, meaning you had to refinance $6,000 to make the deal or accept being lied to because you want to buy a lie, because there's ways to trick and cheat numbers. But sometimes people want to buy a lie and they go shop for that lie instead of shopping for a quality vehicle. So right now, an Escape is pretty much break even if it's financed for a really long period of time, which is bringing us towards the end of our show. Quickly now, though, let's just pump through some fun information. So pumping through some very important information. This is a new episode that you'll want to mark. So really important dates for Ford. People, we need to know these dates, otherwise you might not get a Ford, but try to focus on an existing real Ford. I should really one day put you in charge of photos because I cannot do multiple things at once. So you want a good deal on a vehicle. You don't want to buy a used vehicle for way too much money, like this $27,000 1995
Maybe it's because
Toyota.
it's a classic now. No, you don't think
No,
so?
no, it's the market is a little crazy, and you just have to know how to shop a deal.
The same price as a Maverick.
I'd say don't buy an available you find a Maverick, if you find a Ford Maverick, if you find an available Ford Bronco on a lot and they want more than MSRP, don't buy it. I'm going to tell you why at the end of this live, the real danger of what happens if you buy a vehicle over MSRP. We're going to cover the whole psychological aspect and the wallet aspect of that. But right now, let's just look at really important dates at Ford, because ordering a Ford right now is, I think, a very smart idea. I think you order it, and when it comes in, we're going to be, probably have either good interest rates, better interest rates, or maybe save a few $1,000s through rebates. But if you find an available really hot model on the market right now, you're going to pay it over MSRP. And just like buying a stock when it's at its peak value, well, if you sell it quickly after, well, it's still worth the same or a little less, it's not so bad. But if you buy it once the market crashes, well, that stock, if you buy it high and sell it low, that's how you lose thousands. Same thing with vehicles. So you don't want to buy a Maverick at plus $5,000 or $10,000 over MSRP, and then in 6 months or a year, when there starts to be more on the road, more units, used units available, what's going to happen? You're going to lose that money. It's gone. And if you generally trade every 2 years, that's not going to change either. People are people, and we don't change a whole lot. The WB pointed out that for our live, we're over 100 people, and yes, it is nice. That reminds me back to the good old days when our lives, we'd always be anywhere between 100 to 200 people. So thank you very much for sticking with us. Really important dates at Ford. I would not buy a Ford or any vehicle over MSRP. Toyota's having this major problem of over MSRP as well, but they're not market adjustment fees. They're just, people are being forced into buying products that it's illegal to force them to buy. So that's a quick 1 minute, 2 minute episode that we'll cover really quickly. But okay, so the Ford Mustang, we're on to 2024 ordering. You're going to want to, the order bank's already opened March 27th. Production is going to start, 0506, 5th month. Production already started for the 2024, of course. Now, the Mustang Mach-E for 2024, order banks are going to open up October 16th. And what's going to happen? Right at the beginning, January 2nd, you're going to be able to order one up. And sorry, I'm mixing up January 2nd. So I got to make sure I get my days and months right, because French and English, they switch it around.
Yeah.
Bronco Sport, 7/17/23. So July 17th is when you'll be able to order up a Bronco Sport. Production for the 2024 is going to start up 10/16/23, so October 16th. Now, the full-sized Bronco, it's not just from this sheet, this, mostly, usually correct, but often can change fleet ordering sheet. There's also talk on other sites saying, there should be pricing guides available and order guides available for the Bronco in mid-August because, order banks should, unless dates change, 2024 Ford Bronco should be August 14th for ordering one, and production then going to November 13th. The Escape, by the way, folks, I love the 2023 Escape. I'm going to produce a video on the 2023 Escape plugins. I think they're a fantastic value, and I think plug-in technology is the way to go. You don't ruin the environment with these huge batteries, and you still have a gasoline engine, so you can still do some long hauling, long driving, and long haul. Of course, you're not really hauling much of anything, but yeah, you still have a little bit of hauling capacity. I believe, if I recall correctly, 2,000 pounds with the 1,500 pounds with the Escape Hybrid. If you want to tow 3,500 pounds with an Escape, it does exist, but with the 2-liter turbo. Now, the Edge, the 2024, is going to continue to exist. You've been able to order a 2024 Edge since 5/22/23, so May 22nd, and production is going to start July 17th. Now, unless someone asks me for another model, I'm only going to cover the Ranger and the F-150. So, and of course the Maverick. Now, the Maverick, it says gas in brackets. They're not talking about hybrid, but it'd be very odd that we couldn't order both at the same time. And that's going to be July 17th, 2023 for the 2024 model. So if you want a 2024 Ford Maverick, you need to order this up in advance. And production's going to go likely to October 16th, 2023. We all know these dates, especially for the Maverick, can move around a little because they're very much sold out. And really good news, just before I get to your question, really good news, only about 33% of hybrid orders should get pushed out. And by pushed out, don't expect price protection, don't expect special rebates. So make your Maverick buildable, which we're getting to in just a minute how to do that.
Yeah, just because you speak about the Maverick order for the 2024, Orlando OBX has a really good question during the show about that. He said, what is the time frame we will hear about the price range and option about the 2024 Maverick?
Probably, unfortunately, if we're unlucky, dealers will find out the morning of
Ooh.
ordering.
You won't have the time to be prepared.
Ford, if you're watching Ford, I pray, please send your dealers pricing and order guides, 2-3 weeks in advance. We can do a few pre-orders to help dissipate that traffic coming in day one, morning one, when we don't know what to do. Oh, what does the new Maverick have? Oh, hold on, let me check my notes. And those are the smart guys, because the dumb arses, what they go is, oh, BS, BS, BS. And they're just like a typical YouTube channel spewing crap. And then what happens? The Maverick comes in, and it's not as the confused salesman in his defense. Oh, I didn't have my, he probably doesn't work there anymore. But that type of salesperson won't get to work at a dealership very long. They're long and gone. But they just, figured they BS. They see all, people walking around. And they're like, that could be my broccoli. That could be my box of cereal. Don't eat cereal. It's horrible for your health. Way too much sugar. But anyways, that could be my carton of eggs. Eat many cartons of eggs. But anyways,
Not the carton, just the eggs.
That could be my 0 alcohol beer. So it may seem like I'm drunk at this point in the video. I'm just excited because I like getting out information to help. And I think this information is really helpful. It's typical if you've had bad service at a dealership, it's probably a salesman that's not going to last very long. No one likes a liar. But we need the tools, and dealerships need to have long-term people working there that know their product, that want to help people. And no one does that for a minimum wage. You don't get, you'll get the occasional miracle worker, 1 in a million that is just incredible, really smart, really kind, super empathetic, high service orientated, and willing to work for minimum wage. But if they are, something's wrong. Like, if you're really good, why are you working for minimum wage? Don't. Find another job. So, on that note, most of the time, if you pay people badly, you get bad. That's just the result. So just keep that in mind. Now, if we get this information out in advance, even your responsible, smart, long-term guys, they'll know this in and out for morning one. And when that wave of Maverick orders comes in, they will be ready. So that's my hope for Ford, that we do get this information out early, and it'd be great even if the build and price was available before ordering, so people can play around and do a bit of that online shopping themselves, because I'd like to actually have YouTube videos showing you how to do your build and price with recommendations and things to keep in mind, so that you don't get fooled in case you fall on a baffling, poorly paid salesperson who isn't really a salesperson. They're just a salesman, and they just want to, they think they're the man as long as they make the sale. It's not about making the sale. It's about giving the right service. It's about taking care of people. It's about caring for people. But that's my philosophy on it, and I'm right. So it's my show. I get to be right, folks. Now, I want to cover the Ranger, the 2024 Ford Ranger, obviously May 24th. You could order your 24 Ranger. Production is going to start August. 0807-23. So yes, August 7th, they're going to start building these bad boys. I love the new Ranger. I think with a V6, it's incredible, but you're going to have to wait more towards the end of the year to be able to actually order that. But I think the 2.7 liter, the 2.3, good engine. I like it, but I'm a speed freak. I love the power. I love the torque. So I'm sold on the 2.7 liter. And I think if you change the mags and tires and give it a little lift, you've got not a Raptor, but you've got something really cool just the same. And I love Ford's Raptors. We loved our F-150 Raptor. How much do you miss that? I miss it.
When you speak about that, I miss it, but no, don't let me think about it. I was okay with
Fair,
it.
I'll change the subject. F-150, I know that's still on the same subject, but F-150, order bank, open date. You can go order an F-150 2024, so all the new changes. Look forward to sharing that with you folks. 9/13/23, so 9th month, September 13th, 2023. Production set for the end of November. So those are those notes right now. Now, if you order a plug-in escape, which I highly recommend, you're going to be waiting roughly probably 7 months. There are differences from dealer to dealer. Now a Braptor, I'm going to be showing video on the Braptor next week's live. I love the thing. And, you could list, some people could have you think that, you'll hear it on forums. I ordered September 2022, which was the case for this Raptor, and it just came in, but it's the only one we're getting. So most dealers are getting 0 to 5 if they're an unbelievably huge dealer. Lucky dealers are getting 1 or 2 for the year. And I think at pretty much all dealers, they're up to year 2 or 3 if you throw in, or even 4 if you throw in a Raptor order in now. They are expensive. And seeing the price tag on one makes me almost feel that the Wild Track, $117,000 for a Bronco Raptor. I think our Wild Track, from recollection, it's about 84. Seems like a good deal. I know that seems crazy, folks, but Maverick Hybrid, you're probably going to be waiting 1 to 1.5 years, and an EcoBoost 6 to 10 months. But I'll be back next week on the live with photos and actual, hey, here's a photo of Maverick. It took exactly this long, and this is its equipment. So make sure you hit the bell notification so you don't miss out. So that's done. Throw those notes on the floor so the desk here doesn't get more scheduling notes. Throw those on the floor. Now,
Leave it for Tim.
I'm turning into a wild newsman here. We're not millionaires here. We don't have a teleprompter just telling me what to say like a robot. This show sometimes gets made as we go.
If we had that, I would be able to speak more because I didn't have to think about the words.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, this is a new episode, so you'll want to note this. Ford Maverick recall. So, I don't recommend that you go out and not buy or order buying an available Maverick over MSRP. I don't recommend that. Ordering a Maverick at MSRP or finding one magically at MSRP, it's like finding a unicorn, but I highly recommend it. It's a great truck. Heck, when you've got 1995 selling for $26,000, everything seems like a good deal, but
I prefer to wait for the Maverick then with that price.
fair enough. And speaking of waiting for the Maverick, I don't expect any competition to come in anytime soon. So the Maverick is the choice on the market, folks. And there are recalls, but don't let this discourage you. And there is a new recall. So I'll talk about the new recall and I'll cover the recall from last week. And I'll even talk about what I talked about 2 weeks ago. So we've got a recommended demonstration/delivery hold. It's Customer Satisfaction Program 22B39. So certain 2022 Mavericks, HEVs, so that's the hybrid, has a no start condition. Now, in Canada, this affects 1,344 units. So probably times roughly 10 in the United States, but I don't have the exact numbers of how many are affected in the United States, but that's, possible affected vehicles. Now, this program doesn't have a distance limit. So if your vehicle ends up being touched by it, you're going to be taken care of. Everything's going to get paid for. Now, the reason for this program, well, in some affected vehicles, there's a no crank or no start condition that could occur. And this may be due to a loose or detached eyelet solder connector. They even know like the exact one in the battery cable assembly at the battery junction box. Now, could this be what's causing fires? I highly doubt it, because the fire situation has a whole different set of criteria that occur before there's a problem. So this is a no start situation. These things happen, folks. Everything, when you're making tens of thousands of anything, things can break. I've said it before. My ex-sister-in-law, her Toyota Corolla transmission broke under warranty at about 75,000 kilometers. So these things happen. So how do you know if you have a recall? Well, you can call your dealer. You can check online with the National Highway Transport Safety Agency. They've got a little section. You can put in your serial number and pop. You see all the recalls that touch your vehicle, if there are any. And if it's a Maverick, yeah, you might be touched by a recall. Ford likes to keep their vehicles, as good as they can be. And sometimes they'll recall hundreds of thousands of vehicles, or potentially recall hundreds of thousands. So the other recall actually does affect, a lot of vehicles. So a little over 100,000. It's potential Ford Mavericks. And what's going on there? Well, there's a little lesson to be learned in all of it. First of all, Ford does a lot of recalls. They widespread, so that basically it means a lot of people can make the claim and get, the free parts, the free repair, the free service. So they do things really widespread. They don't take chances. If they have one fire or two fires, they'll be willing to recall hundreds of thousands of vehicles and check them over. So with the Ford Maverick, low 100,000 vehicles for that. But what's going to happen is you are going to hear kind of like a bang, metal on metal sound. You're going to lose power. And if so, pull over right away. And if beforehand your check engine comes on, pull over and call Ford Roadside Assistance. It's free. When you have a new Ford vehicle, from recollection, it's 5 years or 100,000 kilometers, they're going to send towing to you, and they're not going to charge. They're going to pay out of pocket. So if you have a check engine come on, pull over. The Lightning just recently had said, service vehicle soon. I checked on my Ford Pass. Very cool. Get Ford Pass, folks. It said, all-wheel drive or powertrain malfunction. Bring to dealer soon. I brought it immediately. I drove 1 kilometer, maybe 2, brought it into the dealer, and it wasn't a check engine. It was just a little service wrench image, and it said check service vehicle soon. They did the diagnostics. They deleted a few things, reprogrammed one thing, and it hasn't come back. Now, this is the second time this pops up, and I think with my Lightning, it's my Lightning's way of telling me to stop putting the pedal all the way to the metal. And I'm like,
He's tired of you already.
And I'm all like, it's a lariat. I got carpets, bro. I'm not putting the pedal to the metal. I didn't hear any metal to metal sound. I don't need to calm down and slow down. But I think my Lightning's telling me to be a little bit
Be
kinder. And my BF Goodrich KO2 tires that I spend good money on because they're great tires, not paid promotion, by the way. BF Goodrich, you should pay me. But I love these tires, and I throw them on everything. It's like my Frank's Red Hot Sauce, but for cars and trucks.
That's true. You always bought the same tire for a Bronco, for a Lightning, for everything.
You remember before I started to have digestive problems, I did put Frank's on absolutely everything.
Now you do it only with the tire.
Now
doesn't attack
BF Goodrich KO2 all over the place. But when there's wheel spinach, when those tires spin, I've had the wrench come up a few times, and 2 of the times I brought it to the dealer, and you're like, well, the computer says everything's A-okay, but we have some alerts we could get rid of. But simply put, Ford plays it safe. So if you're driving your Maverick and your check engine comes on, pull over, get roadside assistance. If you hear a metal sound and you have a loss of power, well, you've probably blown something. And this is why I'm thinking it's not some little like electrical thing. If the engine is very, very few engines, but if engines are blowing and then spewing oil, well, two things can, generally the most common engine blow-ups are because there's no oil in the engine or the air fuel mixture is all wrong. But if you're hearing, I really would like to see someone in the community, well, I don't want this to happen to anyone, but if someone in the community is noticing oil leakage in their vehicle, well, then it's going to make me lean to think that maybe this is a gasket manufacturer that's providing, a few gaskets that are making it so that the vehicle is losing oil, because definitely you can blow a piston if there's not enough oil in the engine. Now, the EcoBoost that we talked about in one show, it did have missing oil and it had oil spray before, it would appear before the engine catching fire and exploding. So that's what made me lean into this whole theory that maybe, just maybe, we've got a little gasket issue. But recent Mavericks being built, the Mavericks being built right now, whatever the issue was, it has been resolved. So let's hope that everyone's Maverick's okay. And if they know what the problem is, and if it is a gasket, well, that's cool, because then you can start to really micro manage the situation, pick out the exact serial numbers in which the bad gaskets went into, and then just call people up, email these days and text and whatnot. But anyways, communicate with the owners saying you've got a bad gasket in your vehicle, bring it in, we'll do a recall. Tom Dinder, thank you very, very much for that support. Oh, and I'm happy to hear that Tim is playing, Ford Video Guy is playing with the grandson. I look forward to play with my future son or daughter. Will continue to do this show, but is discouraging when you see that the way to popularity on YouTube is through economic terrorism, where you attack and you say things that aren't backed by facts, but they're backed by just what your eyes see. But you're not, if you see a yard full of F-150s and no Mavericks, you say, well, Ford's not making any Mavericks. Ford is making a whole lot of F-150s because, they're jerks and they make a ton of money on them and they want to force you into an F-150. If Ford could build 800,000 Mavericks, they would, because they'd sell 800,000 Mavericks. Yeah. And more money is more money. And I never got to the point at the beginning in the other episode, and I really should. If you can edit it in with little type letters when you do the editing, honey, it's important to realize that the Maverick, over 60% of Maverick sales come from other brands. That's fantastic money for Ford, because when you steal someone who is a hardcore Toyota or Subaru or Honda fan, by the way, these are all brands that the Ford Maverick is attracting. It's attracting Subaru people. It's attracting Toyota people and Honda people. When you bring them into the Ford family and they love their Maverick, well, guess what? The next vehicle, they might say, you know what? The family's grown a little. You have a Maverick. You're going to have a baby. What did you say? Oh, maybe a bigger truck or a bigger SUV. Bringing in a customer from a different brand is incredible money. And the Maverick is having trouble keeping up because guess what? So many people are coming from other brands. So that's what's going on there. Over 60% are not traditional Ford people. They don't have Fords. If only Ford people were buying Mavericks, there'd be enough, just almost enough Mavericks for production. But the miracle is it's bringing in so many other people. The Ranger never did that. The Ranger didn't steal, a ton of Dodge or GM or Toyota fans. The Maverick has. So that's the big surprise there. And now for the part of the show, we're going to talk more about ordering, since we do have time before we order up our, F-150 or a Maverick. We can talk about constraints a little more in another episode, unless I somehow find it really quickly in the photos. And I have found it really quickly in the photos. Someone's gone into the trouble at Ford Maverick Truck Club to talk about constraints. And by constraints, what do we mean? Well, we mean production being here and supply. Is it above or is it below? Below is bad, above is good. So let's just quickly run this through as a quick little episode. Ordering up your Ford Maverick. Keep these things in mind. Watch this video again later when it's time to order your 2024 Ford Maverick. But hybrid production, great news. It's at 50%. We can make a YouTube video saying Ford resolved the hybrid crisis. 50% Maverick production. It's incredible. And then, we'd be trying to support a company that creates hundreds of thousands, if not roughly a million jobs, low million jobs. But the reality is 79% of Maverick orders are for the hybrid. So we're 29% upside down. It's like a balloon. It's an upside down financing. This is bad, but this is a lot of those Toyota, Honda, Subaru fans coming in, switching out of Subaru. Maybe they've had a Subaru or a Toyota for the last 20 years that they've been switching Toyota or Subaru or Hondas every 2-3 years. Bam, there we have it. We're bringing them in with the Ford Maverick hybrid. Great news, but production isn't enough. You need a whole plant dedicated to just Maverick production, and it's just not in the cards right now. Gas, well, if you order an EcoBoost, sounds like it's going to get made because they could have production be at 65% on this, but only 21% are asking for an EcoBoost. And if you're doing mostly out of city driving, get the EcoBoost. There's not a huge difference in fuel economy between the EcoBoost on the highway and the Maverick hybrid on the highway. So the 2-liter is a fun, powerful engine. And what's really cool is that you've got your, sorry, I was just reading in the comments off to the left because they pop up on the screen and I was like reading, an Escape. They make the Escape traditional hybrid, like a non-plug-in hybrid as all-wheel drive. But if they're now making all-wheel drive plug-in Escape, that's news to me. I hadn't heard that yet. And
it's from Tim.
Yeah, so maybe, or maybe it was just a confusion mix up with the letters because they do make a traditional hybrid, but they make the Lincoln Corsair as an all-wheel drive plug-in. So as far as I knew, you had to get the Lincoln Corsair if you want that plug-in and all-wheel drive. So gas production, we're at 65, potential 65%. So obviously they'll make the 50% hybrids, then they'll make the remaining 50% as EcoBoost. So just keep in mind, XL series, way more demand than production. They're building 15%, and on the Ford Ranger, it's going to be more around 6% for an XL. So get an XLT Ranger. It's worth the money. Get an XLT Maverick. I made a video, one of my bigger videos. We're almost at 300,000 views, but it was, saying, this is the model to get. And we're talking about the XLT Maverick. And the luxury package, I also highly recommended it and still recommend it. It is fantastic value. But for about a year, I had to say to everyone, if you want your Maverick sooner, take it off. Not the case anymore. They're doing 30% production. Ford sent microchips off for the Maverick that they could have probably used on high-paying F-150s, but they dedicated more chip production over towards the Maverick allocation, I should say, and demand's at 25%. So we're good there. Lariat luxury package, we're also good there. You're safe if you go Tremor. Tremor appearance package, if you really like it, okay, spend the money, but I wouldn't. Sport appearance package, great value right there. Tremors, I'm not seeing, of all my Tremor orders, personal ones, I've seen one get produced, get scheduled. So for some reason, I'm not seeing a whole lot of Tremors getting scheduled. Maybe they're waiting, it's going to be like midsummer, and then they'll just push a whole lot out, just like we saw with certain models at Ford this year. If you are ordering an F-150, avoid that opening roof and the Tremor. Asking for a Tremor F-150, also slower, longer, especially if it's a 402. But I think the 401 is the best value on the market of all the trucks. because it's a Ford. It's built tough. Our Ford trucks have always been good to us. We even had one at 300,000 kilometers, and just that thing liked to take jumps in fields. Now, the Copilot 360, you're safe there as well. Driver assistance package, also safe. So all these packages you can consider, but key commodities, do avoid the accessories. Get them from either your Ford store, or if your Ford store, for whatever reason, you would prefer to encourage our channel, well then get them through us, through our Amazon affiliate link, because, well, you're going to pay the same prices if you just go on Amazon, but if you go through our link, click on the description, click the tonneau cover for the Maverick and buy it, well, it's really cool, is we'll actually get a few dollars from it. Get more than a few dollars, and you don't pay extra. So all those tonneau covers, avoid them. All the bed extenders, the spray and bed liner, the plastic bed liner, get them from your parts department or get them through our affiliate links. Now, the trailer tow hitch. Whoa. Oh, Tim's covered this before. I can't remember that awesome saying he has. Something like ditch the hitch. Oh, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I'm happy you remembered that. They're upside down, backwards, you know, out of luck. They're out of luck, 28% upside down. So avoid those, avoid splash guards. I had some people call me stupid, moron, idiot, when way back when I said avoid any orders where there's extra plastic in that order, because there is a global, we're missing plastic, saying, Russia is taking care of the base material.
Matière
première en plastique. So they're taking care of, the initial stage of making plastic, so that there would be missing plastic for the Maverick, meaning avoid splash guards and bed liner. And, well, I got called all sorts of names. Well, those suckers aren't here anymore, and they also don't have Mavericks because they, well, I don't know, they're trolls. So, haha.
Not because they ordered splash guard.
No, they probably, what happened is they called me a moron, kept their splash guard and bed liner on, and then waited and got really mad, and then made a very logical choice, like buy a vehicle that takes twice as much gas with a markup, because it's not just that Ford that we had markup in the recent years. It's basically mostly anything that was available on yards. But the good news is now the vehicles that are available on yards, like F-150s, there aren't markups. And there's generally right now, Ford is doing either a rebate or a very promotional interest rate, because the current common interest rate, the average market is, I believe it's in my notes that I threw on the ground now, folks. It was 8.5 months ago. Then it was in the 9 percentile. And I can't remember if it was still in the 9 or if it's gone up to 11%. But the average new vehicle interest rate is very, very high, folks. So we are wrapping up the show, because I know with your pregnancy, you get tired early, and I promise you an early show, but we'll leave.
You're kind. But if you have the time for a few questions, we have quick ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
About the Maverick. Oh, okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we'll go with the Maverick. So Tom Dinder asked, do you hear about plug-in Maverick or all-wheel drive hybrid version?
No. And Ford is either being very, very tight-lipped, and I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if there weren't any internal leaks. I'd be very surprised if there wouldn't be any internal leaks. And it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. It just means I'd be surprised if it happens for 2024.
Not yet. And we don't know why it's not out yet. It's just because they...
Well, I look at it this way. The Ford Escape, the 2023, showed up at dealers months late. I don't see the whole getting batteries being any easier than it used to be. I think we're going to... who cares how I would do things? But when you have a ton of demand and much lower supply, and you're having trouble getting the batteries just for, your Mach-E's, just for your Lightnings, for your Escape plugins, do you really bring it into the Maverick, which is already believably popular? Or do you wait until you have a better, more cost-effective battery technology that you can get your hands on when interest in the Maverick starts to, because it's any model, no matter how popular it is, you start off here, and with time, this is what happens. And that's why you have, mid-fresh, you refresh that model after 3 years, and popularity goes up, but not to where it was before. You're at, a halfway point, and then for a year or two, and it goes down, and then you get down to the 6th year. Or if you're Mitsubishi, you haven't changed your model in 20 years, or if you're Dodge, you haven't changed your motor in 20 years, but those are just automobile jokes for you all. But if you're Ford, you're at the 7 to maybe 10-year mark in very rare cases for models that are like so sacred, such sacred cows, you don't even want to touch them. The Bronco is one, and it is a sacred cow. Let's be honest. A cow, I'm still going to play this joke, a cow is more aerodynamic than a Ford Bronco. But I wouldn't spend 80 grand on a cow. I have spent 7 grand on a cow before, but I would not spend 80 grand on a cow. Some people, by the way, spend $1 million for a cow. So if you think an $80,000 Bronco is insane, go to a cow auction and you'll see some, $200,000, $300,000 cows go right by your face. That's a sacred cow, folks.
Okay, and next question is from Mike Keish. Do you know what the 2024 Maverick prices will be set at?
Growing pains. 2024 Maverick, I do not know. They have not told us. They have not come out with the pricing guide. I do hope that we get the pricing guide and the order guide, ideally 2 to 3 weeks prior. I'd love to see the Build and Price website up a week prior to ordering. Even if they have to push ordering back 2 weeks, even if they had to push ordering back 2 months. It's good to have these tools up and running in advance, but no idea on pricing. However, I can see and figure, based on the market, based on people's reactions, based on YouTube videos, I don't see the Maverick going up 5K. There'll be way too much negative publicity, so I would think that there'll probably be an increase, maybe, $1,000, maybe $1,500. I would think at most $2,000 on the models. And then again, if I were to do it, infamous line that I'm starting to say, if I were to do it to keep the positivity around the Ford Maverick, if anything, I do multiple incremental price increases. And that's just how I do it. And it's tough when you have a model that will probably sell out within 4 days. So it's tough because, it's easy to say, just do, if you're going to increase it by 4,000, increase it over 12 months by 4,000. Well, that's not really easy to say when they'll all be sold out within, 4 days to, anywhere from 3 days to 12 days. How do you put incremental price increases when they're all going to get sold in this amount, X number of days? You can't. Except for the ones that become available on the lots, but dealers already try to mark those up. But if Ford, for the ones that are available on the lots because of canceled orders, if Ford has increased the prices on those, well, it makes it harder for the dealers to sell them over sticker. And then Ford gets the money, and Ford can reinvest it into, newer products, better technologies, better battery technologies, and better, more fuel efficient gasoline engines, hoping that we can keep the gasoline engine around if they can make it pollute less and more efficient.
And for the last question, it's from Tom Dinder. It's about the Bronco. So any update on the Bronco Sport Hybrid? I know the response.
None.
So
Go for it.
I will tell you no, we don't hear about it. I know it because I had the same question this week for John. Because maybe I want to have a Bronco Sport Hybrid for my next car. So I told him, do you know if it's coming? Because I love my Maverick Hybrid, but I want more space in the back for a baby seat. So I asked the same. We are a lot of people waiting for that one.
Now, we are a show that's honest and gives you the truth straight up. Because saying that you love the Bronco Sport is a very unpopular opinion. And it'll get you roasted and blasted in Bronco communities.
I love
But
the big Bronco, but I
she
don't have
loves
the budget.
Yeah, and you really like the Bronco Sport, and I like the Bronco Sport, and I find the Bronco Sport 2-liter to be an absolute blast. I also don't understand why we don't have more demand for the EcoBoost 4x4 Ford Maverick. But hey, what can you do? What can you do, folks? Now, Toyota. Let's talk about Toyota a bit. By the way, not its own episode here, but Porsche contacted me and said, would you like to pick up not your Porsche, but a Porsche available now? And just like how I avoid markup, I also will avoid things that make the vehicle hard to resell, or other words, depreciate. I think this is a color for a Porsche that would depreciate. So I said no, because it's pink. And when they originally sent me the digital photo, I did think it was maybe red with a bit of purple in it. I was like, I can dig a red purple car. But this, I think, would be hard to resell, which segues beautifully into our next topic. So our next topic that I'm slowly trying to get the right photo here. The next topic, Toyota. Toyota. I've got too many pictures. Let's go get a nice off the net. Do we have a nice Toyota picture? We always have a nice Ranger picture sitting up, of course. Love that thing. But Toyota. We do not have a Toyota picture. We're not going to talk tonight, as I had planned, about CEO hinting at no haggle fixed pricing. It's more than hinting. They've created a new divisional. They've split Ford in half or in three just to have no haggle, no negotiation prices. But you'll mark this as a new episode. Folks, here's a way to save thousands at Ford, even if Ford goes to no negotiation prices. And what do no, and it's not a maybe. Ford has broken up the company into three different segments. You've got your fleet, you've got your gas, and you've got your EV. You don't break up a company and split it into divisions because you're not going to have some major changes. The major change, folks, this was done to control dealers, to avoid markup. We will have no haggle fixed pricing. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be negotiated. It's just that Ford is going to negotiate the price for everyone in advance. Very cool. Very, very easy. You don't have to, instead of spending an hour or two fighting and arguing with your dealer, and often people that think they got the best deal are usually the people that got, what's the polite term for when you take a screwdriver and you screw it into wood? Visser. Often people think they got the greatest deal are the people that actually got really ripped off, because it often means you take your new vehicle and you fake out the price, you add in all sorts of hidden fees, and you force all sorts of products illegally. But then, when you've added this much crap to the sale, you give this much. But you give it in 4 different segments, or 5. So anyone that's read, the psychology of sales will know you give 5 things to someone and they feel like they're getting a great deal even when you're really ripping them off. No negotiation prices is going to avoid that. And during the whole COVID thing, dealers didn't even try to make you think you're getting anything special. They're just like, yeah, it's right there. It's on the sticker. We added 10,000. Yeah, you want it? There you go. There's tons of people that want it. Too much demand for too little supply made for some pretty dangerous situations. And I say dangerous in the sense that if you try to resell that vehicle, because if you bought in 2021, if you bought a vehicle 10,000 over, but at 0.99 interest, you're laughing today looking at people paying the same price now, but at 8, 9, 10, or 11%. People don't talk about that on YouTube, but I have a bachelor's degree in liberal arts, so very much into history and philosophy, the old version of psychology, before it started to be less fun. So Ford is moving towards no negotiation prices, but throughout the year, you're going to see, interest rates get better as the vehicle gets older, and you're also going to sometimes see rebates. But there's one solid way to always get a rebate, and that's to sign up. Either own a lot of shares in the Ford company. That works. That's going to get you a special plan. Either, work at a company that provides a service or a product for Ford. So a factory that, does window rubbers or windshields, any Ford parts. Or you can join the Ford Club of America. That's going to make it seem that as if you work for a company that supplies parts for Ford. So you're going to get a very, very good discount. Now, honey, I do believe you had the pile that had the discount sheets in it. So I should have prepped you and asked you to get this ready for me. So here are some really cool rebates that you can get. Now, they're going to be a little bit bigger when it comes to the gasoline engines because while the petrol-powered vehicles have more profit available. Because a lot of these plans just means that the dealer ends up selling you the vehicle basically at, basically their cost, and they wait back for a kickback from Ford that they have to properly claim, and they have to follow through all the rules. So what's cool is this also makes it, for years, there's been a whole class of individuals that have non-negotiated prices. They have a fixed price. Unless the dealership, some people would come in being like, well, I want more than my employee price, or I want more than my partner of Ford price. So some dealerships, because they're like, well, it's sort of like a fight, and sales shouldn't be about a fight, but it would often be about a fight. You'd have a person being like, well, I'm going to shop until someone gives me more than my employee price or more than my Ford partner price. Really what they're saying is, I'm going to shop around to different dealers until someone lies to me, because today I am shopping a lie and I want to be lied to. It's like being addicted to the sugar. You just want that quick dopamine fix, and then you feel horrible afterwards if you really think about it. So there's only one fixed pricing when it comes to all these programs. So let's say you're looking at a Mustang Mach 1. You've got an A plan, you've got an X plan, you've got a Z plan, you've got a D plan, and you've got an F plan. F plan is retired Ford employee. D is if you work at a dealer. X is if you're a partner of Ford, you provide them with a service. And A is if you work directly for Ford. So let's just take a few examples here so we can wrap up the show. Premium, rear wheel drive, if you're a Ford direct employee, $2,200. If you work for one of those service providers or product providers, $900. Z plan, $2,200. D plan, you work at a dealer, $900. And F plan, $900. Now, if you go up to, let's say, an all-wheel drive premium with the big battery, well, A plan, Ford employees, $2,800. A product or service provider, $1,200. Z plan, $2,800. D plan, $1,200. F plan, $1,200. So those are pretty nice rebates. Now the GT, the Mach-E GT, $3,400, $1,500, $3,400, $1,500, $1,500 in the same order. Now if you're looking at a Lightning, huge rebates. A Platinum, A plan, Ford employee, $4,500. X plan, $2,100. So that's a huge rebate. No rebates otherwise exist on these electric vehicles. $4,500 for the Z plan, $2,100 for the D plan, and $2,100 for the F plan. Now, those rebates that was a Platinum. So obviously those rebates are less if you're getting, let's say, a Lariat. And so far, I don't have anything for the XLT, so I don't know if the XLT is just fixed pricing for everyone, even if you're an employee. But it would look that way thus far, unless I get a nice little surprise on the next page, which I do not. So that's a way you can always save money at Ford. Now, Mustang Club of America, become a member, and you get access to these plans after a certain amount of time, or by, you'll find it online, Google up the answer, but there's a certain amount of stocks you have to own with Ford, and then you're getting some of these amazing rebates, even on models that are rebate-free and non-negotiable. Now, I know you're starting to feel nauseous because you're holding your stomach, and I know that face. So that is pretty much a wrap to the show, except for our last episode. And our last episode for the live this week, which will turn into an episode if you have, for the people that didn't make it through the whole show, but thank you so much to the people that really do. Let's talk about dealer markups. Toyota dealer markups are kind of weird right now and very tricky. So we got to get that Toyota picture up. Got to get this Ford Ranger out of the way. So let's just throw this on here. Toyota markups are causing major problems right now. And I call them markups, and a lot of people would disagree, but they're hidden markups and there's a way to avoid them. Now, first, why do you want to avoid markups? Well, we mentioned it earlier. If you bought in 2021 or early 2022, pretty much any vehicle for, let's say, 10% more, at a very, very low interest rate, you're laughing now because the interest rate's gone up by, maybe 8%, and the MSRP has gone up by about 10% anyways. So you got an incredible deal even though you paid over MSRP. Well, that's like a stock that's here that was originally at the line here. And the stock goes up and you buy it here in 2022. So you buy your January 2022 Ford, Toyota, GM, any manufacturer. And it goes up and you're looking at it now. And interest rate's gone up by 10%. And the MSRP's gone up by 10%. And you saved 10%. You paid 10% too much, but you saved 10% compared to today's price. Well, here's the thing, folks. The market, the automobile market, the prices and interest rates aren't going to continue to do this. Something's got to give. We're at the max. No one making minimum wage, working 40 hours a week can afford a new vehicle. Most of the middle class can't afford a new vehicle, especially not a new truck. So prices are going to need to do this for a very long period. And if in case sales will go down, or either interest rates or rebates, something's got to give. The monthly payments need to come down unless worldwide, all the companies at the same time shake hands and decide to produce less vehicles. Now, WEF would probably be really, really happy about that. But I'm really not looking forward to an autonomous driving, no vehicle owning future. But let's hope that planned production decrease is not some planned situation, because if it's not some planned situation and production stays high, we're running out of people that can afford new vehicles. The people that can really and that are in a really good position to trade vehicles are people that have a relatively new car. Your Maverick is worth more than what you paid for it. You can sell it as a used vehicle for more than you paid for it. Fantastic. But I really don't see the automobile market prices and interest rates continuing to rise. So if you buy a vehicle right now at 10% over, but generally you trade every 2 to 3 years, your trade value is going to be down here because the new ones are will have gone down by 10%, let's say 5 to 10%. But if you pay 10% too much for it now, with depreciation, wear and tear, you're going to be in a situation where you might owe, let's say, $45,000 on a vehicle that's worth $30,000. And you're really going to want to trade. And the worst thing is if the banks have opened up the floodgates to saying yes to everything the way they were in 2018, 2019, and 2020 and 2021, if they're just saying yes to everyone, you might refinance $15,000. And there's going to be a dealer or two that are going to tell you maybe you shouldn't trade right now, you're upside down by $15,000. But you're going to have a whole lot of dealers probably boost up the price of the new, or there'll be, a $5,000 rebate and they're not going to give it to you. They're going to show an extra, $3,000 or $4,000 on your trade just to push it through to show you that it's not as bad as it looks. Or maybe you'll shop until you find a company. Let's say you shop and you end up at Dodge Ram and they've got a 15 or 20% rebate off their sticker price, because they always do. So you're like, there's a $15,000 rebate roughly, and you're $15,000 upside down. So many times had dealers tell customers, you're not upside down on your trade, it's a great time to trade, and they're $15,000 upside down, but they get zero rebate that everyone else got. Everyone else got the $15,000 internet rebate, but they got no rebate. But hey, they got told that they're only $5,000 upside down, so they gave 10 on the trade extra and kept 5. So beware, you need to shop your vehicle online. Don't fall for dealer fees. You don't have to pay them. In our region, it's actually illegal to charge dealer fees. And you don't have to take any added insurances. It's illegal. You know, all these insurance contracts, they say there's always clauses that say you're not forced to take this insurance to have the new vehicle. Even if your credit is kind of poorish, just because your credit isn't great doesn't mean you have to take an extended warranty. Mind you, I do highly recommend Ford's maintenance plan. And if you sleep better having an extended warranty, well, I do recommend the extended warranty. Always depends on the price, but an extended warranty can save you a lot of trouble unless you have cash sitting around in the bank. If you have the cash sitting around in the bank, the cash is sitting there, well, then maybe you roll the dice and pay for the repair out of pocket if it happens. But if you do finance and you don't have a whole lot of cash sitting around, well, sometimes it's easier to just add a little bit to your monthly and have that extended warranty so that if something does break and it costs $3,000 or $4,000, you don't lose the vehicle. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
As a previous
Totally.
F&I? I'm not saying, you know, always get it, but if I were to keep my vehicles long enough, I'd always get a maintenance plan. But I switch them every 6 months to a year. Now, that's why you don't want to overpay, folks.
Didn't have time to do maintenance.
If you overpay now, you're going to be financing, you're going to be upside down. You're going to be basically, you know, you're going to owe up here 45 grand, you're going to have a vehicle worth 30, and that 15 grand you're going to finance into your other vehicle, even if it doesn't look like you're financing it into your other vehicle. You're not obliged to get an anti-theft. Your insurance company, though, however, can say, we will not insure your Hyundai or Kia, which is super easy to steal, unless you get an anti-theft system. That they can do, because they're just saying, we will not serve you. We will not sell you a service in insurance if you don't add something to help that Kia or Hyundai not get stolen. Because these days, a Kia or a Hyundai is about as easy to steal as a shopping cart. They're worth a whole lot more. They're good vehicles, but they're super easy to steal, folks. So that your insurance company can do, but your automobile dealer cannot tell you that you cannot have the vehicle if you don't have an extended warranty with it, or if you don't have a life insurance policy with it. That's not legal. They can't force that. What they can do, though, and this is the major problem at Toyota, is they get their limited inventory. They don't have no markups at Toyota, but what they do have is, well, you have to have this product. It's an anti-theft. We're charging you $3,000 for it. It's worth $500, but go do some carpentry to yourself. Hey, that's how you can, a nice way to say, go screw yourself. Go do some carpentry with yourself. So go do some woodworking. So they'll tell you to go do some woodworking if you don't want their, $5,000 to $7,000 of added nonsense to their Toyota. Now, if they've actually installed something and it's their inventory, yeah, they can. You can't force them to take the anti-theft off. But that's where, if I were to buy a Toyota and all the dealerships around me were forcing me these things, well, I'd say I'd look for the dealership that's willing to order me a vehicle and that I can have the vehicle without these things. Once it arrives, I'd get it written pretty much as a contract they'd have to sign. That's the show for tonight. Thank you so much to everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's get baby here to bed. And Marie, I'll let you sign out if you're still awake.
Yeah, I'm still awake. So we wish you more cars and more power until next Monday.
Thank you, everyone. Hit that thumbs up.